Acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Todd Lyons. Mr. Lyons, thank you very much for your time and for your service to the country. A 500% increase, and we're seeing a lot of these rioters get released by local judges. How do we keep our law enforcement community safe?
Hey, Tom. Well, thanks for having me, and happy Saturday. That's one of the things that keeps me up at night consistently is the fact that just the men and women of ICE in our local and state partners and our other federal partners that are helping us aren't safe right now. That slide that was up there, that was from June 19th. We actually just broke 700% increase over last year's numbers on assaults on ICE officers. Just last night, we had an incident in the Dallas field office. We had a local police officer that was responding to some protesters, some fireworks outside the Prairie Land Detention Facility in El Dorado, Texas, was shot in the neck. They were ambushed. It's unprecedented. What we really need is we need support from congressional leaders, from local leaders. When you have elected officials, especially in Democrats in Congress, calling us terrorists, calling us Nazis, saying it's okay to dox us, dox our families, that's not right. That's putting a target on the backs of the men and women of ICE who are going out there and protecting this nation every day. And what we need is we need all the support for these folks that are out there.
Mr. Lyons, who's really behind these folks? It seems like a lot of these are the same people who are, all about defunding the police and attacking cops during George Floyd, and now they're sort of pivoting to go after the ICE agents. Are we ever going to really get to the bottom of who is funding these people, who is helping to organize them, and then, of course, you have these Democrat elected officials who are just sort of fueling the fire?
Well, Tom, I can tell you and your viewers that definitely we are getting to the bottom of it. I was on site in Los Angeles when it first kicked off. I was there for the first week of it. The U.S. Attorney out there is amazing. Department of Justice, specifically the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the IRS, criminal investigators, they have open cases on a lot of these individuals and these corporations, these groups that are funding these protests. It's not your average people, right? If you look at the demographics of the people that are coming into Los Angeles, to New York City, to Portland, right? These aren't people in the neighborhoods, because most American citizens realize ICE is a law enforcement agency. It's a law enforcement tool. Everything we're doing right now has been on the books since the 1950s. There is definitely a menacing group behind this, and we're working very hard with the Department of Justice to find them.
There's a new mobile app out that's also launched that tracks the location of ICE agents. Something like that certainly puts them in grave danger. How do you combat a threat like that?
We really hope that through our messaging, through our partnerships in the technology world, we would get around things like this. But you just have these anarchists, these people that are just so against our mission. They'll go out there and do it. It has to put our officers more on edge. We have to deploy more resources out there to protect just the 4 or 5 officers conducting arrest. We wouldn't have to be out in the communities if we didn't have sanctuary jurisdictions. But we need the help of, like I said, of Congress and elected officials to make sure that we can ban app like this that really put law enforcement in harm. This isn't a First Amendment issue. This is a law enforcement issue. This is a public safety issue, and we need all the help we can get to stop technology like this.
Nashville, Tennessee Mayor Freddie O'Connell coming under fire after his office publicly posted the names of ICE agents involved in immigration operations in California. Cudahy Vice Mayor Cynthia Gonzalez calling, it seems like, for gangs to organize in a now deleted video. What should happen to these elected officials who seem to deliberately putting agents' lives in danger? Should they be prosecuted in some way for endangering law enforcement?
Yeah, Tom, I fully support the Department of Justice in any action they take against any elected official that puts any one of the men and women that I have the pleasure of leading in harm's way. For like the mayor of Nashville to go ahead and publicly put our information out there because we're doing a law enforcement mission in his city. And if he actually took the time and sat down and looked at the public safety threats we took out of Nashville, it's amazing. It's astonishing. He should be thanking us, not blaming us for anything. I could speak from experience. Under the last administration, I had Antifa show up my residence from another state, drove all the way to Massachusetts just because they didn't like the ICE mission. So I know what it's like for these men and women that their families get terrorized. And, you know, the vice mayor and the mayor of Nashville should be ashamed of themselves. They're not protecting anybody. They're just grandstanding. And what they're doing is they're putting law enforcement officers' lives in jeopardy. And I fully support any investigation into any elected official who will go ahead and do this to a member of law enforcement or their family.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.